The project is a large-scale development project within the town limits in the town of Trappe in Talbot County. The town limits did not always extend to include the property where the project is located. Many years ago, gosh, maybe over 15 years ago now, there was a public debate about whether that property should be annexed and rezoned to accommodate a large-scale development of this kind. That work culminated in the annexation happening and also the rezoning to allow that land use to change. And then we had the Great Recession that I think contributed partially to putting the brakes on the project. And now it has reemerged. The scale of the project is not insignificant. We're talking about just over 2,500 units of residential homes, as well as some commercial development in a pretty rural area. So it'll be a significant change. The Bay Foundation's main concern with this project as it stands now is the wastewater. Significant number of people will be using the facilities that are built there. How much wastewater is being generated? What is the quality of treatment? And is the state upholding its responsibility to manage this wastewater, which it has an obligation to do under its permitting authority, in a way that's adequate, in line with the Chesapeake Bay restoration effort? And those are some of the questions that we have now. The issue really here is about the management of the wastewater and the responsibility the state of Maryland has to ensure that wastewater is treated properly. As we've been talking about the development plans and zoning and annexation changes over the years have come to pass. The question now is the Maryland Department of Environment acting appropriately when it issues a permit, a groundwater discharge permit, to treat the 540,000 gallons of wastewater that eventually, once the property is built out, will be managed under a wastewater treatment facility that is co-owned by the developer and the town of Trappe. The facility will be one of the largest of its kind on the Eastern Shore. In our view, there are questions about the Maryland Department of Environment permit that allows the wastewater system to be built and operated, and whether the issuance of that permit really is done in a way that the department is obligated to do. And we've got some significant questions about that. It's a good question why we had to go to court. We participated in the public hearing that MDE held. This was well over a year ago, maybe close to a year and a half ago now, where MDE staff came to the town of Trappe, held a public meeting in the hearing in the firehouse there, heard the citizens' concern. Our lead scientist was there, made our concerns. We wrote the department several times. We worked with our partners to have additional meetings and conversations and wrote additional letters, really calling into question the sufficiency of this permit to protect water quality. To the department's credit, they did respond to some concerns related to the size of the storage area. They actually permitted a lower concentration, which is better for water quality. But at the same time, the department is still claiming zero discharge of nutrients to groundwater. This is a spray irrigation facility where the water that's coming out of the brown water, if you will, that's coming out of the houses in the commercial areas will be treated to the limit of technology before it is then sprayed over farm fields. It's over an 80-acre farm field or set of farm fields that will receive this treated effluent. And the department is claiming that, after the crops that are grown under the spray irrigation system take up these nutrients, there will be no nitrogen and phosphorus that leave the root zone of those crops. And this is a major concern of ours. Many wells that people use for drinking water up and down the eastern shore of Maryland and throughout Delmarva have concentrations of nitrates that exceed drinking water standards that the United States Environmental Protection Agency maintains. When the department says there isn't going to be any nitrogen in the groundwater, we need to see some evidence of that. And the permit that they've issued, in our view, does not provide that evidence, and therefore really needs to be remanded by the courts back to the department so they can respond to this concern. Well, the solution is for the Department of the Environment to uphold its responsibility to issue a permit that's consistent with the Chesapeake Clean Water Blueprint. The blueprint is the science-based plan that all of the Bay states operate under to make sure that the target for nitrogen, phosphorus, sediment pollution in the Bay is set to meet water quality standards, that all of the Bay states work together through plans that they develop, states know best, to achieve those standards. The state of Maryland has also required no major subdivisions on septic systems. Septic systems are 10 times more polluting than centralized wastewater systems. And the state recognizes that. So they say, you know what? We're going to limit growth on septic systems for homes that are connected to centralized wastewater. We're going to make sure that any of the wastewater that those plants receive is treated to meet nutrient caps. And then we look and we see, well, now they want to approve a spray irrigation system, which doesn't fit under either of those two regulatory regimes, if you will, and claim that it's zero discharge. Show us the science that the zero discharge will happen. Show us the nutrient management plan that they say is satisfactory to result in zero discharge, yet it hasn't been made public. It's not a clear reference document in the permit. So, this is really, an issue that goes beyond what the concerns at Trappe are to anywhere in the state where spray irrigation is proposed. I think there are over 30 of these spray irrigation facilities around the state now. What about going forward? Is the state going to be a full and complete partner in the Chesapeake Bay Clean Water Blueprint and make sure that this source of wastewater is adequately managed? Yeah, and we've been looking at this project for a long time. There are concerns with stormwater. There are concerns with, vehicular traffic, cars coming and going, which can add more exhaust, which causes nitrogen problems in the Bay. The nitrates from exhaust and power plants can get in the air, and that's actually not an insignificant source of water pollution once the air lands on surface water. So, all those concerns are still on our radar. The applicant will be, the developer will be seeking sediment erosion control permits to address any concern related to stormwater at the construction phase and after the property is managed. And we're looking very closely at all of that. What is present right now is this permit approval, which was just made right at the end of December. And so we issued this petition for judicial review on February 1st to have the Talbot County Circuit Court look at this permit decision made by MDE, which is before us right now, and something that needs to be looked at in order to make sure that the right path is followed here. I think it's important to be clear, the Bay Foundation is not opposed to this project. This judicial action is not about trying to kill the project or change it in any substantive way related to, the homes and the general plan for the development itself. The concern is if the project as proposed is to move forward, is water quality sufficiently protected? And that's why the action is against the Maryland Department of Environment, not the developer. We're looking at their obligation to permit this facility adequately, and the permit that was finalized at the end of December is inadequate in our view. So, let's go through that process. When the developer moves forward with site plan review and sediment erosion control, yes, there will be lots of stormwater issues and concerns. We will also be watching. For example, they've recently applied for a wetlands license, and we're learning more about that application now. they're likely to disturb wetlands on site, and how that is handled or mitigated are also questions. This isn't about no development. This is making sure that, when the town and the developer come together and propose a development under a public process that has certain rules to follow, are the rules being followed adequately, and is everyone's interest well represented and legal? And that's what we're looking at here. It could take months. It's a little difficult to know now when the court will issue a decision, given that the historical time frames over which something like this has been reviewed are now affected by COVID, and there's so difficult to predict when we'll know. They may be moving a little bit slower. It'll be a few months, likely at a minimum, before the court makes a decision, and that decision will be relative to the department and whether it acted appropriately with this permit. So perhaps remanding the permit back to the department, perhaps throwing the case out and saying the project can move forward, or